You're listening to Chopping It Up with Jimmie C, where we celebrate life after wrongful conviction. We are covering everything from sports and resiliency to mental health and integrity. So, pull up a chair and get comfortable because you are in for a treat. We are Chopping It Up with Jimmie C, and here I am. Let's get it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Chopping It Up with Jimmie C. I am your host, Jimmie C. Gardner. For those who don't know me, I spent 27 years in prison for a crime that I did not commit. And now I'm out and I'm free. On today's podcast, we have with you today Mr. Jeffrey Deskovic. But first, I want to remind you guys to support my channel. Please like and share our page. Make sure to sign up to get our alerts so you never miss out on our live show. Okay, let me introduce to you the Mr. Jeffrey Deskovich. Jeffrey and I, Jeffrey's an exoneree from the state of New York. And Jeffrey and I met, man, a few years ago. And that was an opportunity for us to just be able to bond and be able to come together. And I thank you, Jeffrey, man, for just being a stand-up guy, man, and just everything you've been through and all of your triumphs, man, and how you're giving back and doing so much, man, for society and individuals that are wrongfully convicted out there, man. So hey, man, come on in and let the people know a little bit of something about you, man, and talk a little something. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm an advocate. I started the nonprofit organization, the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation for Justice, which has freed 7 wrongfully convicted people. So it was important to me to reach back to the brothers and sisters I metaphorically left behind. We helped change 3 laws in New York. I'm an advisory board member of the coalition group It Could Happen to You, which the foundation is part of. We helped pass another 3 laws really quickly. We just recently opened chapters in Pennsylvania and in California. So we're going to continue our model there of building a coalition and working for reform. I recently graduated law school about a year ago. I just passed the bar exam.
Awesome.
So doing full-time advocacy work. Yeah, just my life is all about giving back. And of course, my motivation is that, as you mentioned, I did 16 years in prison in New York from age 17 to 32 for murder and rape, which I did not commit. DNA exonerated me while identifying the actual perpetrator. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, man. And I want to let individuals out there know, we have a quote coming across the screen saying wrongful conviction, it can happen to you. It can happen to anyone. And that's from Jeffrey. And I want to let everybody know, and Jeffrey can also, let everybody know this can happen to anyone. You're witnessing 2 exonerees right now having the opportunity to speak and having a platform to speak on and be able to share a horrific event that occurred in our lives. And neither of us allowed that event to just turn us sour or to put hatred in us. We're home, we're doing good, and we're living life, and we're doing everything to give back and help those that we know that are still behind and may need to be lifted up and need a little help and assistance in getting their cases heard and being able to be interviewed and so on. So Jeffrey, tell me a little something, man. Tell me, you spent how many years in prison?
16.
Man, and you were in the state of New York.
Yes.
And just congratulations on going through that and coming home. How long have you been home now?
14 years.
14 years. And in those 14 years, as you all can hear, Jeff has received his law degree, and he's continued to move on. He started his foundation. Man, just so much props to you, bro. If for those individuals out there that are wanting to do similar things to you that you are doing right now, as far as with your organization, coming home and being able to not just be just in a negative situation and being in a position to do for self and others, what would you recommend to those individuals? How can they get started in an organization of such like yours, and how can they keep a mindset of positivity as far as moving forward after wrongful conviction?
Sure. I mean, just realize that this is an opportunity for you to turn everything around. The wrongful conviction and years of imprisonment works against us initially. So why not turn that around and turn that into an asset you definitely have a chance to have your voice heard. You have a platform. People will listen to you if you speak. So, you can rise above that and be that person that you wished existed while you were wrongfully imprisoned.
Right.
But the main thing is to have a plan, though. That's the whole thing. The idea is, don't go crawl under a rock. Don't never be heard from again. I would encourage people, not to be content to just go back and just be just a regular member of society. I mean, doing advocacy, I find to be very healing, very meaningful. It makes a difference. And so you can, use that initial 5 minutes of fame and parlay that into a whole lifetime, worth of advocacy work. And I find it very healing and meaningful.
Awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. And I was saying earlier, you and I we met in Atlanta. I'm not sure if you remember that. We met in Atlanta.
I do.
Innocence Network conference, man. And since you've been home, how many conferences have you been to? Innocence Network conference.
I've been to 11. I've been to 11 out of the 14. Yes.
Awesome. And I know it's I mean, to me, my first event, my first national network event was in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm sure you were at that one also.
Yes.
And we had an opportunity to walk to the Lorraine motel where Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. And it was so much unity and just so many individuals there that had been through similar experiences that we have. Can you tell me, just share with the audience a little bit, what type of feeling overcomes you when you're in the rooms and when you're around individuals that have gone through such pain and agony and such a horrible incident in life by being falsely incarcerated for numbers and scores of years? How does that make you feel when you're around these individuals today in these events?
I feel moved. I feel empathetic because I've been there and done that. I feel for their pain. At the same time, I feel a kinship, a bond, a camaraderie, a level of trust that normally in most walks of life you would not feel to a stranger. But I don't consider them to be strangers because we have the commonality of having been wrongfully imprisoned. And frankly, it's nice to be around people that that in general, everybody in the room is safe, which is often not the case.
Man, I tell you, my experience, man, it was just so moving being able to go up on the stage. And when you're on that stage and you're around almost 100 people or more that have been through horrendous an ordeal such as yourself, such as what we went through, and just to see the men and women share the same stage together. We're the very blessed and fortunate ones that have received the opportunity to come home, through DNA and through help of attorneys and organizations, innocence projects. But it's so many that haven't had that opportunity. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity. I know, Jeffrey, you're thankful also.
I'm very thankful. I am there's many people inside, that don't have legal representation. And there's people there that sometimes the knot is tied so tight, there isn't any undoing it. So I do feel fortunate. And it's also extra motivation for me to continue to do advocacy work. I feel inspired by the new people that have come home. That's always the highlight of the Innocence Conference Network is, all the new exonerees that came home. There's like a huge screen and you see like a 5 to 10 second clip the moment they were released. And the next thing you know, someone's calling their name and the real person appears on the screen. Jimmie, it's so dramatic. My hair is standing up right now. And then when, eventually our name gets called as well, they go through the old timers that have already been home after the new people. And, I love being on the stage there and, just being an inspiration for the audience members. I love being involved.
I'm a part of a fraternity, a Greek fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And I always let individuals know that the fraternity of exonerees, and we all have rings that Kirk Blusworth, the first exoneree from the state of Maryland, he makes these rings for everyone. And I don't know if everyone can see it, but this is a ring that all exonerees are awarded by Mr. Kirk Blusworth. And I'm sure you have yours, Jeff. You're probably not wearing it today, but I tell you, man, this is a phenomenal fraternity, and I'm just so proud and happy to be a part of it. Yes.
Yeah, the rings are sentimental for sure.
Oh yeah.
You know, I actually mine fell off my hand when I lost some weight and it got lost in the snow. But you know, Kirk is actually in the middle of working on another one. He's going to send me another one.
Oh yeah, you get another.
Yes.
So tell me, Jeff, what prompted you when you came home to want to go into law? What prompted you to want to go back and get your law degree and eventually fight for the men and women that are still falsely incarcerated?
Sure. So, I mean, it took me about 5 years to get compensated. And once I did, I started the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation for Justice. And as I mentioned, we were able to get 7 people home. But at some point, sitting in the front row of the courtroom and not being able to sit at the desk, the defense table, and not being able to address the judge, that, you know, it became not enough. So hence my foray into law school, you know, graduate law school and, pass the bar and finishing up the last couple steps to get that law license. So I felt like I'd be able to represent some people that way. The additional credential would help me in my policy initiatives and give additional level of credibility. Jimmie, sometimes I make a sports analogy.
Okay.
I say, look, I got tired of being the head coach of the football team. I wanted to get on the field. I wanted to play quarterback.
That's right.
So that's the rationale.
Man, thank you for sharing that. You know, you want to be out there on that field. I mean, it's all good, but you want to be right there in the middle of it. And,
yes.
and there's been a number of exonerees since they came home that have became attorneys, and they've went and they've taken the LSAC, and next thing you know, they went and did their years of law school and taking the bar, and now they're attorneys in their respective states. Are there any exonerees that you know of that went through the process to become lawyers after exoneration, if you can name them?
I can name them, and I do know them, and I'll share with you. I consulted with a number of them before going to law school, and then while in law school, I consulted with them. So the forerunner, of course, was Chris Ochoa, but then other attorneys, Jared Adams, who moved to New York from Illinois,
yes.
Marty Tankliff of New York, Keon Katibi of New York, Isaac Wright Jr. of New Jersey. I haven't met him yet, but I know I'm familiar with his work. Donald Glassman is another person. Michael Robinson as well is another one. So yeah.
Man, I mean, that is phenomenal for individuals out there. You know, just hearing these names run off the mouth of Jeffrey Deskovic. These names of other attorneys that have went on to become lawyers in their respective states, and to be able to fight for wrongfully convicted and rightfully convicted, be able to make sure that clients have effective representation. It's phenomenal. And this just lets everyone know, regardless of your circumstances, whatever you're involved in, you know, continue to believe, never give up, and to continue to put yourself in the position of staying resilient and reaching towards your final goal, reaching towards that objective. Never let anything take you off your path, off of that straight path. Stay on the course and continue to fight, and eventually win the reward. Man, and Jeffrey, man, you're a fine example of that, man. You stayed on your course, and you've helped so many lives in between, and you just, man, I mean, we got to put you in for the humanitarian award.
I would love that. I really would love that, because it's nice to be recognized, and it's healing. Right. But most importantly, you know, it highlights the work, and it brings attention to the cause of wrongful conviction.
Exactly.
And I just keep it, you know, my feet fully on the ground, and you know, I'm just a tool in the struggle. You know, I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this to happen to me in order to do this. But that having been said, you know, it did happen to me, and all I can deal with is right now and tomorrow. And this is the best course of action for me.
No doubt, man. I mean, undoubtedly, I believe everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
And you're doing wonderful work, and you're continuing to help men and women come out of false convictions and bad situations going through the legal process. So you continue to do what you do, man. Much props to you. Much respect. Yes. Now I want you to share with our audience just a little something about wrongful convictions. In my case, I had prosecutorial misconduct. I had an individual that testified falsely to the forensic and serology DNA evidence, and so many cases have different different things happen. It could be false identification. It could be, individuals falsified evidence, testified falsely, perjured themselves. It could be a number of things. What is the number one thing from your belief perspective that you think causes wrongful convictions?
Well, statistically, misidentification is the leading cause of wrongful conviction. At least in the DNA cases, that's been the cause of wrongful conviction, 75% of the DNA-proven wrongful convictions. That having been said, the factor that runs through almost all the wrongful convictions is prosecutorial misconduct. So that was actually one of the laws that the coalition group I'm part of, It Could Happen to You. That was one of the reforms that we passed in New York. We were able to pass the country's first commission on prosecutor conduct, so an independent oversight board for prosecutors. So we were able to pass that, and we passed the chapter amendment to that a year afterwards. Awesome. We're in the process of repassing that. The DA Association wanted no oversight, so they brought a lawsuit. The judge upheld the commission, but found a problem in the appeal process within it. So we're in the process of repassing it to tweak that. But we're also trying to export that commission in Pennsylvania and California.
Awesome, man. Keep putting that work in throughout the country. And I just, myself, I'm still going through litigation, civil litigation. I'm in it'll be 3 years of civil litigation for me after the fact of doing 27 years falsely. And I think that's something in our country that individuals that have been wrongfully convicted, they have to come home and then they have to fight to get their cases expunged. Then they have to fight to get the prosecution to dismiss the charges, and they have to fight for just to try to be made whole again. And that's a continual fight. And there's a lot of negative things that happen throughout that process. If it were up to you, how would you try to circumvent the process that is currently ongoing in the judicial process? And that process involves prosecutors having just so much autonomy to charge how they want to charge, to bring charges back against individuals that have been wrongfully convicted after the fact, to come back in and just continue to use that position as a bully pin. How would you respond to that? What would you say are some methods or some ways that we as people in this country can try to eliminate that prosecutorial misconduct and the opportunities that prosecutors have to just use that position as a bully pin?
Yeah, so I think definitely passing the Commission on Prosecutor Conduct in every state, as well as federally to deal with cases, because wrongful convictions happen in the federal system. So that would be the first step. Another step would be there's a terrible legal doctrine called prosecutorial immunity. So that means no matter how serious the misconduct is, the prosecutor could suborn perjury, could threaten witnesses, could withhold evidence of innocence. Nothing happened. You can't sue them. So I would remove that immunity. And the third thing is that I would criminalize clear-cut, intentional prosecutorial misconduct. So when someone threatens a witness or withholds evidence of innocence, then they've obstructed justice. They've pulled off a kidnapping, under color of state law. So I'm in favor of criminalization of, again, not errors of judgment, but clear-cut and intentional. So I think that those things are important. If I could segue back to your statement before the question, I want to agree with you in terms of the difficulties that exonerees face upon release. I believe that separate and apart from financial compensation, exonerees should be assisted by the government on day one of their freedom. Things like housing, cost of living expenses, mental health services, doctor care, dental, access to public transportation, job training, job placement. classes on technology. So all those things should be provided automatically. There's 15 states that don't have compensation. Pennsylvania is one of them. So that's one of the states that can happen to you, our Pennsylvania chapter. So we're working on passing exoneree compensation there. They don't have automatic expungement either. So we're really close to passing that bill. So those are two of the things that we're working on there. So it should be automatic is what I'm getting at. It took me 5 years, Jimmie, to get compensated. And while I was doing a lot of advocacy work, speaking, and I was making some money doing that, I was a columnist, but I was still struggling financially. I was never able to obtain gainful employment. As you know, speaking is not a consistent form of income. You only get paid when you get booked.
Right.
Right. So, I lacked stability of housing. I bounced around from place to place. At one point, I nearly ended up in a homeless shelter. I didn't get any help for mental health. So I had to do that 6 years. I went 4 times a week. My lawyers were able to find a mental health professional that was willing to work on a lien basis, where they took the chance that they were going to get paid. That was the only way they could get paid, would be if I won my compensation case. So but many mental health professionals are not willing to work on that basis. So a lot of exonerees are not provided with the mental health assistance that they need.
Man, thank you for sharing that. That is a problem we're encountering. When I came home, I didn't have opportunity for health care. I couldn't get employment right away. I mean, it was not a good situation. And I came to the state of Georgia, and things just weren't as not affordable as presentable to me. I didn't know where the resources would come from. So it was a difficult situation, and I'm fortunate to have family there. But there's so many exonerees, they've been gone so long, they don't have family.
Right. Yeah, they lose touch with their friends. They lose touch with their friends and family.
Yeah.
That's one factor. It is hard to reconnect. And another thing is that often, to the extent that friends and family are still in the picture, many of them are of modest means, or they're struggling. I mean, most of the people that have been wrongfully imprisoned, we never had very much money to begin with.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we were wrongfully convicted, because if we did, we would be able to hire top-notch lawyers and investigators and other experts and present our cases in the right way the first go around, and it quite possibly wouldn't have been wrongfully imprisoned. So that's all part of it. And the world was much different for me. The culture was different. The technology was different. So cell phones, GPS, internet, that didn't exist when I was when I was originally incarcerated. And cities and towns looked different. People moved away. So I often felt like if I was a fish out of water.
Man, thank you for sharing that. And I went away. It was 1989. I was convicted in 1990, and you were around 1990 yourself.
Right.
And man, it was a lot happening, a lot of changes at that time in the world. We didn't have the same accesses that we're having today, with the cell phones and all things of that sort, communication. And something is happening today, man. That segues me into what's happening today. Today, we're seeing a new day, and I'm sure you've seen it. Of the instances that have happened in the country, dealing with Black Lives Matter and individuals being killed by police officers, police brutality. Even right there in New York, you have Mr. Philando Castile, you have Eric Garner, and many others. But we're seeing a change, I believe, here today, man. We have a world of people now that are not just saying, I'm not racist, or I'm not this, or I'm against this, or I'm against this injustice. They're actually getting out and protesting. What do you think this change? What do you think about this change, and why it's happening so much right now?
I think it's a good thing. I mean, the mood of the country seems to be for criminal justice reform. People are taking to the streets and protesting, and I support that. I've been at a number of them. I've been allowed to speak at some of them. Yes. And what I'm trying to do, my argument is always that we have to look at criminal justice reform as a whole. Okay, the unjustifiable deadly police force, 1,000% spotlight should be on that, and police brutality. But let's also not forget about wrongful conviction. Let's also not forget about other forms of injustice. And by the way, as much as we need police reform, let's not forget about the prosecutors. They often work hand in glove with the police. They're the ones using the evidence that the police gather in violation of our constitutional rights. They're the ones prosecuting victims of police brutality, the cops to try to cover up their crime. They're charging that you assaulted. It's the prosecutors that are prosecuting those cases rather than dismissing the charges and going after the cops who engage in the brutality. It's the prosecutors who are using lineups and photo arrays that were the identifications of which were obtained through suggestive and unfair procedures. It's the prosecutors that are allowing witnesses to take the stand who are lying. It's the prosecutors who are using coerced false confessions. It's the prosecutors who are using experts who are engaging in forensic misconduct. So we can't forget about them. We need to pass the Commission on Prosecutor Conduct. I'm trying to make sure that wrongful conviction, isn't forgotten about amidst those other two issues, that instead it's all looked at as a whole. And the last thing is, I'm making clear that we need the honest cops, the honest prosecutors who are doing things by the book, right way. Blow the whistle. You always, one of the slogans given to the public is, if you see something, say something. I'm calling on the honest ones. If you see something, say something. It's not enough for you to not engage in misconduct yourself. But if you see it and you turn a blind eye, if you look away, then you're setting the stage for someone to get away with that. You're allowing that culture to take root, and you're putting one class of people, above the law. We need to force the dirty ones out of both professions. I don't think that every cop is bad, every prosecutor is bad, but I'm also not on the other side either. It's not a few bad apples. I wish it was. If it was, why is there more than 2,600 wrongful conviction exonerations listed in National Registry of Exoneration if it's just a few bad apples? Why are there so many victims of police brutality? Why are so many people killed unjustifiably? It's not a few. It's a lot more than that. But at the same time, it's not all of them either. So we need to root them out. And so that's my message. Until that happens, it's really hard for the public, to have faith in the criminal justice system.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Jeff, man. I tell you, I look at it like this. If the other cops are witnessing a criminal act of one of their fellow workers, killing a person or doing something unjustly or illegally, and they don't say something against it, then you're complicit to that. These individuals are complicit to that act, and they should be held accountable for the entirety of the situation.
It's just like if a bunch of civilians, if you and I are together with one or two other people, and we're all together, one of us commits a crime, and we're going along with it, or we're part of that group, and we're in some kind of support. We're all getting charged with that. That's conspiracy. Yeah, and I think that's the way it should be. But I think it's the same thing. The same thing should be with law enforcement.
Yes.
How can you just stand around and watch your coworker, kill somebody, beat somebody, or engage in other illegal tactics, and you don't say anything? Let me not get started, man. I already said enough, but you get where I'm coming from.
It's inhumane.
It really is inhumane.
And I want to also add that the prosecutors they have this immunity, these immunity clauses. If you could, Jeff, explain to the audience what qualified immunity is.
Yeah, so qualified immunity is what police officers have. So you have to be able to show that other people in that profession in a similar fact situation have been held civilly liable, and if you can't, then your case would be dismissed. But I don't like that idea. I think the only issue should be, were any laws broken, were any rules or regulations broken, was there any rights, state constitutional rights? If anything wrong was done, then I think that the law enforcement should be held accountable. It doesn't matter whether or not somebody else in a similar situation has been held accountable. So in other words, if misconduct was allowed to ride before, I guess it'll ride forever. So then how is that going to stop anything?
Man.
If someone kills somebody, right, not only can they subject to criminal prosecution, but that person's family could bring a wrongful death suit.
That's right.
Why shouldn't that apply to law enforcement? I
It's
think any self-respecting police officer or prosecutor, they should want the dirty ones in their profession forced out of it, so we can restore dignity to those professions. But we can't try to restore dignity so long as the status quo is there's no change.
No doubt. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's about accountability, man. It's accountability, and the time is now. We've been through decades and decades of oppression and injustices and inequalities. It's a movement that is happening today that I feel in my 54 years, getting ready to be 55 years on this earth, that is quite different than any time before. You have the young people that I am so proud of, the young brothers and sisters and kings and queens and all the individuals that are supporting these peaceful protests and speaking out and using their social media, their social media voices, that they're using their time and efforts to just start organizations, to start speaking against all of these inequalities. And I am so proud of these young people and all of the elderly, everybody that is involved in being a part of the solution today, being a part of the change. And that is so powerful.
It all counts, and it all counts. And the wonderful thing we're doing today is we're talking about peaceful protesters, right? We're not talking about looters. We're not talking about people involved in violence and vandalisms on property. We're talking about protests, and I think that all those other tactics, those are unhelpful. And that causes there to be a shift in the conversation from criminal justice reform to instead actions of a group. And so I think that's not helpful. So we need people to continue to do things in a lawful way.
No doubt. We don't want to get caught up in, because there's a lot of diversion tactics out there where media will hype up. Well, you got looters, you got this and that. These are a lot of tactics that are ongoing today to try to divert the attention from what's really happening. And that's what's really happening is police brutality, police killing black men and women, police incarcerating thousands of people illegally, and prosecutors doing illegal work, individuals doing wrong. That's what it's really about. And we talk about institutionalized. Myself, I talk about different type of institutionalized situations where there's always individuals that are, I guess, less individuals that are less from the lesser class of people. They're always subjected to I guess being scrutinized more and have different oppressions placed upon them. And there's a systemic thing going on within our country, systemic racism. There's a lot of things happening that are ongoing in this country that are being revealed. The veil is coming off and people are being informed. Technology is allowing everyone the opportunity to be informed, and people are speaking out and they're exercising their rights. And I'm just so proud right now to be in America, to be a human being in this world, because the change that I'm seeing is phenomenal. And it's like I said, you have individuals like yourself and I, Jeff, we can come and we can have an opportunity to speak at a venue, my podcast, Chopping It Up with Jimmie C, and we can be able to share with the world how we feel about our views, about what's going on in the world, and just be a part of the solution and not the problem. And that's what's key. That's what's key. So I want to ask you, Jeff, what do you think? What do you think as far as where we're headed right now? What are some of the solutions? I mean, you have individuals speaking about reappropriating certain funds and doing things of that sort to get back into helping people within our country, instead of being in a position to always harm or be viewed as militarized or militarizing themselves in our country. we're focusing more on imprisoning and jailing individuals. What do you think we should do to I guess curve that and go back to helping and healing and really, rehabbing? If you talk about being rehabilitated in institutions, what can we do? What kind of services can we start putting our monies back into?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm in favor of demilitarizing the police. So I don't think, for example, the police department should have a tank, for example.
For what?
Okay, for what? Okay, it's citizens and it's law enforcement. We're not in a war zone. I do think that as a country, our answer to everything is incarceration. And we need people that have drug problems. They should be in rehabs. People who are arrested for nonviolent crimes. I think there's alternatives to incarceration. There should be reentry programs to help people reenter back into society. I think we need to invest money in rehabilitation in the prison itself. So I benefited personally from college education while in prison. After I got the GED. While I was in prison, I got an associate's and I completed another year of schooling towards the bachelor's before the funding was cut. So that meant that when I was released, when I was released, I had that much less time to go in terms of continuing my education. So college education for prisoners is a proven recidivism rate. There's a 68% recidivism rate throughout the country, whereas people who've been incarcerated have college education. They have a much lower percentage. So Hudson Link, a nonprofit, is 2%. I think we should have vocational trades that have up to date. So I did a lot of trades while I was in prison, Jimmie. I completed the plumbing program, for example, and I did 6 certificates. But everything there was like on iron pipe and metal, and everything out here is PVC and copper. So I think the professors, the teachers there, didn't seem to be so much interested in teaching as they actually were to just get a paycheck.
Right.
So I think that up-to-date technology within the course in terms of course curriculum and oversight, are people actually learning? Those are some things. Certainly the verbal abuse and other types of abuse that go on in the prison from the correction officers and the staff, that's counterproductive when it comes to prison as something. We need to make a real commitment to rehabilitation, because the majority of prisoners are going to be released at some point. And so do you want somebody who is equipped for gainful employment, who've had their horizons broadened? Is that who you want living next to you? Or do you want somebody, who's doesn't have the ability to get a job? They're the same way that coming out that they were going in, or arguably worse, because it's harder for them to get a job, and they've been around, some people that maybe they're still scheming on criminal acts. I mean, I would want someone living next to me, that has a chance to make it in society.
Oh, no doubt, undoubtedly. So I want to ask you. Dealing from a social perspective, and also dealing with individuals, that may have mental impairments that are inside. What would you recommend for individuals going into the system? How can we help individuals that have mental impairments? Because today's day and time, you're dealing with more people that have mental impairments that are being sent to prison. I know when you were in prison, you had to see people at the pill line. When they call for pill line, you see maybe 400 or 500 people running to the pill line just to get pills all day. And this is 3 times a day. So what can we do to try to bring some type of change, to start saying, hey, we need to deal with these individuals from a mental standpoint, instead of just saying send them off into prison? Let's treat the individuals instead of throw the key away.
Yeah, exactly right. So I did see a lot of people, that the Department of Correction, they were just interested in population management rather than actually treating people, and so I think that people that have mental health issues should not be incarcerated. I think that they should be released immediately. They should be paroled immediately and go to facilities that can deal with their mental health illness. And once it's certified by experts that they're able to safely be released, they're not a threat to themselves or the community, they've been treated, then they should be released. I mean, medical care in prison is terrible. It's not equipped for that. It's certainly not equipped for mental health. And to just give another answer to the last question you asked, I mean, I also believe, in restorative justice. You know, and so that kind of program in the prison. One of them, there was a program in which murder victim family members were allowed to come into the prison, and they were able to meet with prisoners who were there for committing murder. And you know, there was identification made and healing, and there was accountability that way. And I think that, you know, the crime victims were better afterwards, and the prisoners were better as well. So restorative justice is on both ends of that. So I mean, I think that that's a really innovative program as well.
Awesome. I mean, it's a lot of programs in the institution that help individuals. I remember going off into RSAT, Residential Substance Abuse and Treatment Program, and my drug of choice was marijuana, but I hadn't smoked weed since like 1989, and I, you know, it was, I went into this RSAT unit for the purpose of getting a single cell. And while in there, you know, I got all the help. Man, I tell you, it's like if you get thrown in the water, you're going to get wet. And when I went off into this environment, I got the most help. Man, it really changed my thought process. It helped change my life. And I still just, I'm appreciative of the values, the core concepts and things that I learned from that RSAT experience. And that RSAT experience is probably going on in majority of institutions throughout the country.
Yeah, I remember when they instituted that in the New York prison system. They designated, you know, a whole cell block specifically for people, and that was their way of fulfilling the R in the RSAT, you know, the residential.
Right. But man, I tell you, I'm like you. You know, I tried to stay busy my entire time of incarceration, and I tell you, I just didn't allow any negatives around me to push me in a negative direction. And I kept myself in a positive direction, and I continued to educate myself. We had college classes. I took college classes every year that I could. You know, I earned some degrees while inside, and I'm able to continue while I'm out here now with degree processes. Maybe going on off into to law school like yourself.
I would love. I'm encouraging you to do that. Yeah, I would love to do that. That would be great. Yes. And
I'm going to be taking classes. I'll be online taking classes here in, I guess, in a few months, and I'll be beginning a whole new chapter, you know, online, God willing, with Chapman University, and that's going to be an awesome experience. But I tell you, inside, man, I learned everything. I worked in the laundry. I learned how to fold clothes. I learned how to press. I worked in the kitchen. I worked in prison industries. I worked in the gym. I worked in the housing unit. I did the floors. I buffed. If I wasn't buffing, I was doing windows. I learned how to do plumbing. I went to culinary arts. I learned restaurant. I got a restaurant management degree. I learned how to cook. I learned how to understand the front of the house, the back of the house. Everything that was offered.
Yes.
Teacher's aid, legal aid, just legal rep, whatever. Every job I basically had while inside my 27 years. And I noticed you said you did something similar.
I did the same thing. Yeah, I took programs that had some kind of potential application benefit to me once I regained my freedom. So I didn't waste any time.
No.
I made use of my time out of the cell, and I also made use of my time in the cell. I used to go to the law library. I used to read like 3 or 4 nonfiction books a week. So I made use of my time just like you.
Since you're talking about reading, that gives me an opportunity to segue into some questions that I have for you, Jeff. About like what was one of your favorite books while inside that you enjoyed reading?
Was Mankind's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
That's one of mine. Man's Search for Meaning, Dr. Viktor Frankl. Yes. He talks about logotherapy, existentialism. I mean, powerful book, man. So I want to ask you, what is one of the first foods you ate upon leaving prison? Can you recall? Can you go back and recall?
I absolutely can. Sure, of course. I had mussels with marinara sauce, and I hadn't had that in 16 years.
Okay.
And I had a side order of Big Ziti.
Wow.
And I had a Neapolitan ice cream, which the restaurant didn't have that, but they had like vanilla chocolate or they had strawberries. So I told them just put it all together in one dish. So there's actually there was a picture of a newspaper that took a picture of me while I had the spoon come into my mouth, while I was having ice. So for that brief half a second, I kind of sort of felt like what it might be to be a celebrity and have the paparazzi taking the picture.
Wow. So you inside, did you all have ice cream, things of that sort inside?
Yeah, so the state, they would give you like a Dixie cup like once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
But then we went to commissary, you could purchase ice cream there.
Yeah.
So every time I went to commissary, I purchased an ice cream. Yeah, that was like a little minor creature comfort amongst the general suffering and hell that is prison. So yeah, I did that.
No doubt. So my next question is, what's the most shocking experience that you've had since you came home?
Yeah, wow. I would say I went to the White House. Well, I mean specifically the Eisenhower Executive Office building, which is attached to the White House. And I was on the not as a tourist, but to meet substantively with one of President Obama's advisors, and they had a whole team around them. And I was allowed to do a lot of talking, and they took a lot of notes, and I was allowed to walk around a little bit in the Rose Garden, and I took a few photos while I was there. So
awesome.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. I never would have thought that I would get to go there.
Sometimes we get into situations, and we get into different areas or arenas, and we're overwhelmed, and we think, man, look where I'm at. But I tell you, you laid the groundwork to be receiving everything you're receiving and to go and experience everything you're experiencing. So it's their opportunity. They should be in awe to meet you and to have the opportunity to have you there with them.
Yeah, you're right.
That's how I look at it.
I agree with you. You're right.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this. Let me see with this here. What do you love doing the most? What makes Jeff happy right now? What do you love doing the most?
Trying new things. So
Okay.
From new experience to new activities to going to new places or trying new food.
Okay.
That makes me very happy. A close second, or maybe even part of that, is travel. That is going to new places. Thirdly, I'm a chess aficionado.
Ooh,
so I love playing chess. So when I get wrapped up in a good game of chess with someone who's is a good player, I enjoy that too.
Well, I'm a chess guy myself, Jeff.
I didn't know that. We're gonna have to play offline. We're gonna play.
I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I haven't played since I've been home. But man, I had my own chessboards, and I had a beautiful chessboard made wooden, beautiful.
Wow.
I left it inside to one of my friends. But man, I love chess. I love the opportunity. I remember playing chess for like 2 or 3 hours one game.
Yes.
Yeah. Chess is a very, very exciting and thoughtful game.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. Man.
Well, they have chess tournaments, man. So when everything is safe to travel, and again, I'll look up a couple of chess tournaments in Atlanta, and I'll fly down there. We'll both enter a tournament. We'll hook up. We'll hang out together, and we'll also we'll play in the tournament, and we'll see how we can do against the players out here.
Man, we're gonna see how we're gonna do. I'm gonna have to start back practicing. I'll start back playing again and get my game right. You never lose it.
No,
it's still there.
No, it's always still like riding the bike or swimming, but you do have to play semi-regularly just to be as sharp as you can be.
Yeah, practice is perfect.
Yes.
So I know you stated that you like to travel. Have you traveled outside the country?
I have. Yes, yes, I have. I've been to 3 different places in Colombia.
Yeah.
I was at the country of Armenia, Medellin, and
man.
Pasto, countries within Colombia. I've been to the Dominican Republic. I was at Argentina. So there's one of my colleagues, one of my friends, Fabian Camaño. He has the only 3 books on wrongful conviction in Spanish. And he set up a 7-day tour for me, where I spoke at a number of places and did a bunch of media interviews with him. He translated for me. Jimmie, the highlight of it was I spoke at a police academy. Well, it was within a prison, but they had the correction officers and they had regular police officers. It was several hundred people in attendance. There were other representatives of the government there. So that was really nice. But, doing that and meeting with other governmental officials, I met the Secretary of Human Rights, and, she gave me an audience, and she appeared in a lot of those. And again, she heard me out. And so that was really good. But then I was also at I also traveled to the country of Armenia, again, working with advocates. So Dr. Hampikian from the Idaho Innocence Project, Idaho. Yeah, but we worked with a bunch of advocates there for a week-long series of events, speaking at different places, meeting with the public, meeting with members of the government, and doing media interviews. So those were all really nice.
Man, you've had some wonderful experiences, man, and opportunities. It's just wonderful to listen to you and hear some of the things you've done, man. I mean, life is so awesome. Oh, praise God, man. Praise God.
Praise God.
Woo, man. I've had my passport since September of 2016, and I have not went anywhere. I've not gotten one stamp. I've been nowhere. And my wife and I, we were getting ready to go to Africa this year.
Oh, wow.
I was getting ready to go to Kenya and Nigeria, and we'd go over to South America. Didn't happen. COVID-19 stopped it. So I said to people, it just wasn't meant. So I don't see myself getting a stamp anytime soon either. But
it's not safe yet. No. But look, I'm dedicated to the cause, and I need to live as long as I possibly can to continue to make a difference and do my work. A lot of people depend on me. But then also, who wants to survive many, many years of wrongful imprisonment only to pass away after a short time on the outside?
Yeah.
That's a sad situation. I've known some people that have done that. Actually, the first client that my foundation exonerated, William Lopez, who did 23 and a half years in prison. He passed away after a year and a half of being home. So his whole adulthood was in effect robbed from him. So I've unfortunately seen Sharif Wilson, another person from New York, who passed. He got like 10 months. He lived for 10 months. Yeah, so I've seen it happen before, unfortunately.
I've witnessed it also. My friend Bobby Jean passed away. She was out of Louisiana, but she was with the Georgia Innocence Project. She's in Atlanta. Yeah, Bobby Jean passed away last year. But I tell you, it's just been some very unfortunate times for individuals. I've known a few individuals come home and not have that long of a time outside, but man, we just got to try to continue to do the work that we do to bring the individuals, the men and women, home under these false pretenses. Get them out of those situations and bring them home.
Yes.
And with saying that, I want to go to my next question. Are you creative in, well, not creative, but are you active in advocating for justice for others that are still incarcerated? And if so, can you tell us how? Absolutely.
So right now, through my nonprofit, the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation for Justice, so we currently have 11 active cases, and I'm expecting within this upcoming year anywhere from 2 to 8 cases may be successful. So I'm active that way in terms of individual. But then, aside from that, I really don't count cases where other entities are doing the investigative or legal work, but they ask me to contribute in one way or another on the public relational side of things, helping to get additional media attention, grassroots tactics, where we do things like pack the courtroom, we advertise on social media. So I don't even really count that. But then also I do a lot of informal consulting. So a lot of people who have friends and family, relatives that they allege that they're wrongfully imprisoned, a lot of them reach out and they get in touch with me. And obviously we can only do the cases we can, but I don't like to turn people away empty-handed. Yeah. So I do consult with them a little bit, and I give them some tips. This is what the letter looking for help should look like, or I help to steer them a little, because a lot of times the friends and family, they're really in over their head. And they don't understand a lot of things. So I try to orient them and give them a few tips and show them how they can do the work and try to help their loved ones. So I that's another work that I do also, which I consider to be on behalf of individuals.
Man, thank you for what you do, and for your continued help in the communities, man, and just reaching back to not only people on the inside but people on the outside also. And I'm a firm believer in the more you give, the more you receive.
Amen.
And it's about continuing to give back. And I use certain quotes in order to keep it. You got to give it away. You got knowledge, man. Pass that knowledge on. Give it to those, man, that are coming behind us, that are in positions to do some good things. So we have to keep passing it on. So. Yes. So I want to ask you about this. This is my next question.
I would like to add one thing to my last answer too. So, but another thing also. So, as an individual, not as through my nonprofit, but as an individual, I've also supported candidates who are running for political office on a wrongful conviction and criminal justice reform slate. So in this last, this year alone, so. I supported Mimi Roca, who was running for Westchester DA, and she we're waiting for the official results, but she appears to have won. Matt Toporowski in Albany, that we're waiting for all the rest of the votes to be counted. He's like 1,100 votes behind, with 17,000 to count. So those two, Yvonne Rosales, who's running for district attorney in El Paso, they're doing their absentee balloting now. They're gonna have their in person voting in July. So those candidates, but in the past, I supported other people, some of whom have gotten elected. And when those people, like I supported Ken Thompson when Ken Thompson was running for a Brooklyn DA, and he got elected. And in the 2.5 years in office that he had before he passed away, he was able, his conviction review unit freed 23 people. Wow. in 23 months. Excuse me, 2.5 years. You would never, ever be able to get that kind of a result from the nonprofit sphere, or just even as individual attorneys. So I think having the right people in office is key. And so those things that I do, like I feel like every one of those people that got into office, that some small percentage of that, I can feel a little bit of satisfaction that I made my little minor contribution in that way by supporting Ken. So getting involved in those races, I think, is another way of helping people.
Man, thank you for sharing that, Jeffrey. Man, that's powerful. Woo, man, that had me cringing. Woo, 23. Wow, man, so beautiful. So I want to that leads me into the young people. I stated before, I'm so proud of our young adults, man, that are coming up today, and these individuals that are letting their voices be heard. These individuals that are protesting against injustice, inequality, and all types of disparities. These individuals that are against all oppressions. If you could, what would you say to our young people today? What words of encouragement and that would you give them to continue the fight and to continue doing what they do, and just being a part of the solution and not the problem?
I would say a few things. So firstly, I would say persistence overcomes resistance. Continue to protest. Get involved in additional ways also. It's very important to register to vote, to be registered yourself, to register other people, encourage people to vote. As we just mentioned, who's in office definitely matters. Learning more about wrongful conviction, other criminal justice reform topics, other topics that are topical that make a difference. So learning more about them, sharing that information, that's part of the work. I think that going to college and getting bachelor's degrees, get master's degrees, or get a law degree, get a PhD, and then use that additional education to be an even more effective advocate, I think that's part of it. I think volunteering at nonprofit organizations, I think thinking about a career in it at whatever level you're able to afford, even just a modest donation. I mean, that's all. It's not free to do the work. So I think that's all part of it as well. Signing petitions, organizing events, speaking at events, showing up at events, all those things count. That's all part of the struggle. So I would encourage people to be involved those ways. Social media as well. They can think about doing what you're doing. I mean, look, a podcast is great. You reach people. Write a blog. There's people who do documentaries. That's all part of the work. There's a ton of careers even within nonprofits, and whether it's doing policy work, fundraising, social media within a nonprofit, grant writing. Those are all things beyond obvious ones of doing investigative work or doing legal work. There's certainly room for people to be involved on a social work or a psychological level in terms of helping people to reintegrate back into society. That's part of the work. There's investigative journalism. There's regular journalism where once in a while you write something. So there's all these different ways of being involved. Just whatever someone is most passionate about, whatever they have a talent for, that should be what they focus. But do the work, and whatever, if you need any additional education, then to help you be even more effective, then do that.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for sharing that, man. And I tell you, man, we just been chopping it up here, but chopping it up with Jimmie C. Man, we've had such a wonderful time so far, and the topics and the questions and the answers, man, we can go on and on, man. But in preparation of allowing this wonderful opportunity to end, I want to ask you one last question, and that would be, what would you want your legacy to be?
I would like my legacy to be that my name was never forgotten, like what happened to me, and more importantly, the work that I did after the fact. To be able to point at specific laws that were changed, that were policies that were changed, that are concrete improvements that are long lasting, and for my role in that, along with many other advocates and organizations, that would be my legacy. Awesome. I would love that to be.
Awesome. And man, I tell you, it's just been a phenomenal opportunity to just sit down with you, man, and chop it up, Jeff. It's just been so phenomenal. And like I said, we can go on and on, man. But with that, I want to be able to let individuals know that this has been an edition of Chopping It Up with Jimmie C, Life After Wrongful Conviction. And I've been here with my friend, Mr. Jeffrey Deskovic. And Jeff, if you can share how individuals can contact you, or if you want to give me your social media sites or information where individuals that want to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with Jeff? How can they be able to just hear more of you or see more of you?
Yeah, so a number of ways. Definitely through social media, Jeffrey Deskovic. I have a public figure page. So people can like the page. Whatever I put on my personal profile, I share it over to the public figure page because I'm pretty close to my limit on the personal page. But if you like the public figure page, you'll be able to keep up with me that way. You can message me that way. Certainly, they could go to my website, www.deskovic, deskovic.org. That's another way that people can email me through the website. You could go to YouTube. The channel is called Deskovic Foundation. So I have a lot of my media interviews and presentations and events and some of the awards I've received. So if you want to hear more of me on a wide variety of topics, including times that were recorded when I spoke in front of state legislatures on different criminal justice issues, there's close to like 200 videos there, so people can check those out. And people can share those as well. I mean, that's very, very helpful when people share the videos and help get the word out there. I'm just a tool in the struggle, but more people hear of what I'm doing, I think the better it is for the cause. It's like the more people doing this work, which is why I'm really excited to be, part of Chopping It Up with Jimmie C. This is part of that work as well. The more they hear from us and people like us, the better it is for the cause.
Man, thank you, Jeff. Man, thank you for sharing. Thank you for taking time out, man, and just sit down and chop it up with me. And I just, man, I'm so proud of you, bro. So proud of you and happy for you for all the success and all of the wonderful opportunities and experiences that you've been able to incur since your wrongful incarceration, and being able to withstand that wrongful incarceration to be able to be the man that you are today and be in a position to continue to give back and move. And thank you so much. And with that, this has been another edition of Chopping It Up with Jimmie C. And we want to say again, thank you to my guest, Mr. Jeffrey Deskovic. And you guys out there, take care of yourself. Allow yourselves to continue to grow. Don't get placed in a position where you're stagnated. Don't become complacent in where you are in your lives. Continue to grow and continue to go. And with that said, I am Jimmie C. Gardner of Chopping It Up with Jimmie C. Life After Wrongful Conviction. And I thank you for joining in. You guys have a great day. Peace and one love.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Chopping It Up with Jimmie C, where we celebrate life after wrongful conviction. Remember, you get to define your life, no one else. Also, don't forget to like and share our Facebook page. Sign up for our alerts so you don't miss our show. That's it. We out. Peace. One love.